She was a virgin, alone at midnight, but then the cowboy's daughter revealed a devastating secret. The night draped itself over the small Texas town like a thick, suffocating blanket, holding secrets that danced just beyond the edge of the moonlight. When Sarah stepped out of the old wooden porch, her heart raced. The air crackled with tension, wrapping around her like the cool, crisp night. She'd been warned about the hour, about the things that whispered in the shadows. It was midnight, and she was alone, or so she thought. The sudden sound of hoofbeats echoed in the distance, throbbing like a drumbeat, sending shivers down her spine. A figure on horseback emerged, parting the darkness like a phantom. The rider, a cowboy with chiseled features and eyes that seemed to gleam under the pale light, drew closer. But there was something about him, something that made Sarah's blood run cold. As the cowboy dismounted, the world around her faded into silence. "You're a long way from home, girl," he said, his voice low and gravelly, as if it had been dragged through the dirt of the ranch. There was a tension that hung heavy, like smoke before an explosion, that made her heart pound. But it wasn't him that shook her to the core, it was his daughter, Lily, stepping out from the shadows. With long hair like wildfire and eyes that held a storm, she wore a knowing smile. It was a smile that sent a chill down Sarah's spine. "You're not what you seem," Lily said softly, her gaze penetrating. "And I know your secret." A lump formed in Sarah's throat. Was she that easy to read? Just then, the midnight air felt stifling, wrapping around her like a noose. Something about the way Lily spoke revealed more than just idle curiosity. It felt personal. What secret could she possibly know? "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that is happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. The tension thickened as Lily stepped closer, her eyes narrowing. "The truth doesn't just slip away. It stays, it haunts." Her words were a chill that cut through the warm summer night, and Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that she was standing at the edge of a deep chasm, staring down into darkness that could swallow her whole. What did Lily really know? And how deep did this mystery run? As the air around them crackled with unsaid words, Sarah felt her heart race. The stakes were rising, and she was tangled in a web far more complex than she ever imagined. A rustle in the bushes made her jump, a reminder that the night was alive with secrets. Was she being watched? The shadows danced ominously, and Sarah realized she'd have to face not just the cowboy's daughter but a truth that would change everything. The midnight hour held a promise of revelation, but at what cost? The air hung thick with tension, pressing against Sarah's chest like a vice as Lily's eyes bore into her soul. Time seemed to stall, each passing second a sharp reminder of the danger lurking in the shadows around them. Her instincts screamed at her to flee, but something, perhaps sheer curiosity, kept her rooted in place. "What do you know?" Sarah's voice trembled, betraying her fear. The moonlight danced around them, casting eerie shadows that flickered like ghosts clinging to truths best left unspoken. Lily stepped closer, her silhouette a dark contrast to the silver glow of the night. "Do you really want to know?" she asked, her tone dripping with both challenge and amusement. "You're not the only one carrying secrets in this town. Everyone wears a mask, but yours is so thin it might just tear away at any moment." Sarah clenched her fists, the chill in Lily's gaze unnerving. It was as if she could see every part of Sarah's soul. "You know nothing about me," she shot back, but doubt gnawed at her. "Oh, sweet girl," Lily cooed, tilting her head, eyes sparkling with a mixture of pity and mischief. "I know more than you think." In that moment, a deep, anguished sound drifted through the stillness, shattering the fragile tension. It was a howl, a mournful cry carried by the wind, a reminder of the wildness that lay just beyond the edges of their quiet town. Sarah felt an involuntary shudder run through her. Lily seemed unaffected, merely glancing off toward the sound, and then back at Sarah. The midnight hour is when the truth reveals itself, whether we want it to or not. Are you ready for what's coming? What do you mean? Sarah's heart raced. The air thickened with anticipation as if the night itself were alive with dread. Secrets bind us in chains, Sarah, Lily replied, her tone suddenly serious. You're about to learn how far-reaching those chains can be. Before Sarah could respond, the cowboy, the one who had been watching silently, interrupted, stepping between the two women. Lily, no more games, he warned, his voice steady but tight with urgency. She's just a girl. This isn't her fight. A flash of anger flickered across Lily's face, gone as quickly as it had come. Maybe she should know. Maybe she deserves to know the truth about her family. At that moment, a low rumble of thunder rolled in from the distance, ominous and heavy. The unease around Sarah burgeoned into something much bigger, something darker. What about my family? She demanded, desperation creeping into her voice. What do you know? Tell me. The cowboy's expression hardened. You don't want to go down that road, girl. Not now. But Lily stepped forward, defiance written all over her features. No. If she knew what was coming, she could save herself from more pain. Break the chains, Sarah. Break them before it's too late. The words hung in the air, heavy with promise and fear, swirling in Sarah's mind like the gathering storm above. Suddenly, the bushes rustled violently again, this time revealing a figure emerging from the cover. Sarah's heart stopped as she squinted into the darkness, seeking the identity of this new intruder. Who was watching? The figure stepped closer, and Sarah's breath caught in her throat. Was it a friend or someone much more sinister? Just then, the clouds parted slightly, casting an eerie glow over the scene, illuminating the face of the approaching figure. What truth was about to tumble into her world? The figure emerged from the shadows, and Sarah's heart pounded like a war drum, drowning out the world around her. The faint moonlight revealed a tall, lean figure cloaked in a dark coat, eyes glinting with a mixture of menace and something else, something she couldn't quite decipher. Daniel, Lily hissed, taking a step back as recognition painted her face with fear. The cowboy's jaw tightened, his body tense as he braced himself between Lily and Daniel, ready to protect her. What do you want? He asked, his voice a growl that sent chills down Sarah's spine. I'm here for her, Daniel said, his voice smooth but cold, like ice sliding down her spine. He pointed a finger at Sarah, and she felt the weight of his gaze crush her, layer by layer. You don't know what you're tangled in, girl. Your family's past is darker than you can imagine. Sarah's breath hitched. What do you mean? The words escaped her lips like a plea, desperate and trembling. Secrets, Sarah, he replied, stepping closer despite the tension crackling in the air. Your parents, they weren't innocent. This town, it's built on the bones of lies. No. Sarah cried out, but her own voice seemed weak, swallowed by the oppressive atmosphere. Memories of her childhood crashed over her like waves, laughter, warmth, and their ever-present smiles. Could it be true? Daniel ignored her disbelief, his eyes fixated on hers. You have a choice to make. You can turn away and pretend this isn't happening, or you can step into the darkness and discover the truth. But once you do, there's no turning back. The air became suffocating, pressing down on her with each phrase. What truth? She demanded. Her heart quivered with the weight of his words. This was her family. How could this stranger twist it into something sinister? Lily, still standing beside the cowboy, now looked torn. You're playing with fire, Daniel. She doesn't deserve this. Not now. Daniel cocked his head, amusement dancing in his eyes. And yet here we are, Lily. The midnight hour draws near, and the shadows grow thicker. She must know before it's too late. Thunder rumbled in the distance again, and a sudden flash of lightning illuminated the scene. In that split second, Sarah caught the glimpse of anguish on Lily's face, deepening the pit of fear already swelling in her chest. "Why me? Why now?" Sarah whispered, though the answer hung lazily in the air, waiting to be pulled from darkness. "Because your time is running out," Daniel said, stepping back, the smirk vanishing from his lips. "The chains are already tightening. And if you don't act well, it'll only get worse." A loud crash of thunder rippled through the night, signaling a storm not just in weather, but within her very life. As Daniel stepped further back into shadow, the air buzzed with an unsettling energy. He turned, his voice cutting through the thick silence like a knife. "Find your family's truth, Sarah. Otherwise, you'll find yourself caught in something worse than any nightmare." Sarah was left breathless as Daniel melted back into darkness. Panic surged, her mind racing. What were the secrets? What had her family done? "Sarah," Lily interjected, pulling her thoughts back to the moment. "You need to understand. We can't wait. You have to decide before the clock strikes 12. Tension brimmed in the air, and every heartbeat drummed louder the chilling realization that time was running out. "What happens at midnight?" Sarah asked, her voice barely a whisper above the brewing storm. But before Lily could respond, an echoing howl rang out again, closer this time, laced with a warning that filled the night. The truth was coming for her, but would she be ready when it found her? As the first drops of rain began to fall, cold and heavy, Sarah felt a dread as palpable as the darkness itself. What awaited her was murky, yet unavoidable. Would she dare to chase it down? Wind whipped around them, carrying the scent of rain and something darker, something threatening. Sarah's heart raced, each gust echoing Daniel's ominous words in her mind. She needed to understand, but the tangled threads of doubt gripped her. "Lily, what is going on?" Her voice trembled, and she could barely keep the quiver from her lips. The storm overhead unleashed a new roar, like nature itself was warning her to flee. Lily glanced toward the dark horizon, worry etched on her face. "There are things about your family you wouldn't believe. Things people have died for. This town isn't safe anymore, and Daniel he knows more than he is telling." The rain began to fall heavier, a curtain of water cascading from the skies as if the heavens raged against their gathering storm. Each raindrop felt like a lash across Sarah's skin, a reminder of reality pounding against her. "There's a reason for fear, Sarah," the cowboy added, desperation rising from his core. "We need to move. Now." "Move where?" Sarah shot back, confusion amplifying her fear. "What are we running from?" "Just trust us," Lily urged, gripping Sarah's arm as thunder crashed again. "I shouldn't have let you leave home tonight. Daniel's not just a town fool. He's connected. You're linked to something so twisted that if you knew, you might wish you were never born." "What do you mean?" Before Lily could answer, a shadow darted past them quick and silent. The cowboy pivoted, grounding himself protectively in front of Sarah. "Stay close," he barked, eyes scanning the woods. "We should head into town. There's strength in numbers." But as they began to move, the air grew thicker with an unsettling pressure. Goosebumps prickled along Sarah's skin. The howl resounded again, a chilling resonance that cut through the storm. It was coming from the woods, but its origin felt deeper, a primal warning. "Do you hear that?" Sarah asked. The wail seemed to pull at her soul, a call drenched in despair. Lily nodded gravely, fear knitted into her features. "It's not just the storm. Something is out there. It's hunting." Suddenly, a figure burst from the tree lean into the clearing, drenched in darkness yet familiar. A girl, about Sarah's age, stumbled into the circle of fleeting light, eyes wide and wild. "Help me!" she gasped, falling to her knees in the rain. "It's coming." The cowboy reached for the girl. "Who are you?" The rain fell harder, blurring her features, but there was no mistaking the urgency in her voice, a mix of terror and desperation. "My name's Megan. You don't know me, but they're after me. They've been watching." "Who? Who's after you?" Sarah pressed, heart pounding against her ribs. Megan gasped, struggling to breathe. "I saw them take people. People you love. It's all connected to the past, and your family." Blood drained from Sarah's face as the implications sank in. Her family had secrets that were unraveling into the chaos of the present, and now, another stranger was enmeshed in the web. Before Sarah could process what that meant, more dark shapes emerged from the woods, flanking Megan, their intentions sinister. "No!" the cowboy shouted. Another howl rang louder, and panic surged in her chest. They were surrounded, the rain turned to a torrent, and Sarah stood frozen, her mind racing with questions. What truth lay behind her family's legacy? What had Daniel unleashed? As chaos erupted around her, Sarah could only wonder if she was ready to face the monster lurking in the dark. Would she summon the courage needed to uncover the truth, or would the shadows claim her? The figures drew closer, their outlines barely visible through the curtain of rain. Shadows blending with shadows, but Sarah could feel their gaze heavy, predatory. The panic spiraled inside her, a tempest more fierce than the one outside. "Get back!" the cowboy commanded, pulling Sarah and Lily close as the first figure stepped into the flickering light. It was a man, tall and gaunt, with hollow eyes that glinted like shards of ice. Behind him, two others emerged, their mouths twisted into malicious grins that left no doubt of their intentions. "Let her go," Megan cried, scrambling to her feet. "You don't know what you're doing." "On the contrary, dear," the man purred, his voice smooth yet dripping with malice. "We know precisely what we're doing. The girl is a goldmine of secrets. Megan isn't anything to you." Sarah shot back, her voice trembling yet defiant. "What do you want with us?" "Us?" The man chuckled darkly, glancing at the others. "Oh, sweet girl, this isn't about you. It's about your bloodline. Your family's history tugs at a thread that should have been silenced long ago." Growing terror ignited fury inside Sarah. "What is it? What have we done?" "Your very existence is the problem," one of the shadows snarled, stepping closer, their face now visible, a woman with wild hair, eyes wild and gleaming under the downpour. "And you'll find out soon enough." Thunder split the air, and with it came a flash of lightning that illuminated the clearing, the sinister faces of her pursuers etched in stark relief. Sarah saw desperation in the eyes of the cowboy next to her. He was prepared to fight, she could feel the tension in his muscles, coiled and ready. "Run!" the cowboy shouted suddenly, and before she could protest, he yanked Sarah and Lily forward, heading towards the tree line, dragging Megan along. The claim of the shadows echoed behind them, curses mingling with the growing howl of the wind. "Leave me!" Megan cried as they dashed deeper into the darkness. "They'll find you too." "No!" Lily shouted, clutching Megan's arm. "You're part of this, and we're not splitting up." As they ran, the ground beneath them squelched underfoot, mud and rain splattering onto their faces. Sarah's heart raced, every breath a ragged reminder of how quickly things had spiraled into nightmare. The howl wouldn't stop, echoing through the trees like a sickening siren. "Why are they after us?" Sarah panted, fear clawing at her throat. "Because of what you might uncover," Megan gasped, shaking her head, tears mingling with rain. "They don't want you to know the truth about the past, about Daniel." Just then, a figure dashed through the foliage, blocking their path, a tall silhouette that seemed to melt out of the storm itself. "Sarah!" The voice was familiar, and her heart seized. It was Daniel. "What are you doing here?" she shouted, caught somewhere between relief and anger. "I came to warn you," he yelled, the downpour drenching him, dripping from his hair. "I thought I could stop them, but it's worse than I imagined." Before she could comprehend what he meant, shadows engulfed them, closing in fast, and Sarah felt the world around her starting to collapse. "Stay together!" The cowboy shouted over the raging storm, but the darkness twisted and turned, melding into figures from legends long forgotten. With a crash, the sky above them tore apart, a violent snap of thunder that seemed to echo in the very marrow of her bones. In that moment of chaos, as shadows circled with intent, she caught a glimpse of something glimmering nearby, a fragment of truth mingling with the storm. She took a breath, daring to hope that within this tempest, there lay a path to understanding. But the shadows had other plans, and as they lunged forward, Sarah's last thought was a frantic plea for light in an engulfing darkness. What did Daniel know that could turn the tide? What would they face if they fought back? The scream that pierced the air wasn't hers. It belonged to Lily, who jerked away, eyes wide with terror as she stumbled backward. The figures lunged at them, their grotesque features twisting into the dim light that fought against the storm. Sarah felt a surge of adrenaline. She had to protect them. "Get behind me!" she shouted, shoving Lily toward Daniel while keeping her eyes fixed on the approaching shadows. "Sarah, don't!" Daniel protested, stepping forward. But it was too late. The cowboy had a gun drawn, its metallic glint almost a beacon against the night. He fired, once, twice. The echoes of gunfire melded with thunder, yet the figures seemed undeterred. They merely grinned wider, as if each bullet missed them was a game they found thrilling. "They can't be stopped that way!" the woman yelled, her voice cutting through the storm as if to mock their efforts. "You have no idea what you're dealing with." "Then tell me!" Sarah screamed, anger and fear surging together. "What do you want from us?" But the answer burned in the air like the sulfur of hell. The figures stepped closer. "We want to awaken what lies within you, dear. The truth is awakening and it will change everything." The cowboy raised his gun again, but Daniel's hand shot out, blocking his aim. "We can't just shoot them. We need answers." A moment of silence hung heavy, the storm raging behind them while the figures remained poised to strike, their eyes glowing with sinister anticipation. Sarah's heart thudded painfully in her chest. "Daniel, what do you know?" she demanded. "What's inside of me?" The heaviness of his gaze bore into hers, a storm gathering behind his expression. "It's not something I can explain here." He glanced nervously at the advancing figures. "But it's linked to your family, to the blood that flows through your veins. The same bloodlines that tie us to them." "What?" Sarah felt herself swaying, struggling to keep her focus as confusion blurred her vision. Just as she was about to press for more, the woman lunged forward. Without thought, Sarah reached for the nearest branch, swinging it like a bat. It struck with a satisfying thud, knocking the woman back into the mud. "Run!" the cowboy shouted again, panic breaking through his stoicism. "We need to move, now." They turned to flee, the shadows momentarily halted by the disruption. The rain turned into a deluge, blurring the world around them. "Where?" Lily gasped, still clutching Megan's arm tightly. "Toward those trees," Daniel yelled, pointing to a dense cluster that loomed like a fortress against the storm. "If we can split the shadows up, we might have a chance." As they sprinted toward the trees, Sarah couldn't shake the icy grip of fear. Behind them, the figures gathered momentum, moving through the storm with an unnatural grace. They called out in haunting whispers, their voices swirling around them like the wind. "Have you ever considered what lies dormant in your soul?" the man taunted, his voice echoing ominously. "Let us show you." "Shut up!" Daniel shouted, glancing back. Sarah felt a prickle at the base of her spine. What if their enemies were right? What if something within her was stirring, something that could change everything? They ducked beneath the sheltering branches, heart pounding, breaths heavy in the damp air. The shadows stood still, then flickered, uncertain in the storm's chaos. "We need to find a place to hide," the cowboy said. "Somewhere we can regroup." "Why don't we just fight?" Sarah exclaimed, bewilderment sparking anew. "What if we know?" Daniel's voice cut through. We need the truth first. If we engage, we'll never learn what we need to survive. She felt the gravity of his words, but deep down, her instincts screamed for action. As they huddled, the shadows drew closer yet again, hovering just outside their perimeter. The relentless rain masked their whispers, yet one phrase horrifyingly clear slipped through. You can't escape your destiny, Sarah. It's written in blood. With a shared glance, Sarah and Daniel knew they were out of time. The storm surged, their only ally turning against them, and the shadows began to close in. What sinister revelations awaited them? And did Daniel know more than he was letting on? The tempest was far from over, and the answers felt just out of reach, looming in the darkness. The rain fell relentlessly, drowning out the crooked whispers of the shadows as they hunched at the tree's edge. Sarah's heart pounded against her ribcage like a caged animal desperate to escape. She tried to pull her thoughts together, even as terror clawed at her mind. Destiny? Bloodlines? It all felt ludicrous and terrifying at once. Hold on, the cowboy said, his breath visible in the freezing air, they're assessing us. We need a plan. Daniel leaned against the rough bark of the tree, his hands trembling slightly. We can't just sit here waiting to be hunted. We need to know what they want with Sarah. We don't even know what's inside her, the cowboy murmured, casting a sideways glance at Sarah. But we'll find out. I promise you that. A flash of lightning illuminated their faces, casting eerie shadows over the trees before plunging them back into darkness. Sarah could almost feel the weight of the shadows pressing closer, the figures hovering just beyond the perimeter of their refuge, taunting and ravenous. What are they? Lily's voice quivered, breaking through the heavy silence. Why are they after us? No one truly knows, the cowboy replied, his voice rough like gravel. They've been a part of this land for centuries, hunting those marked by their ancestry. We're merely unlucky. Something twisted inside Sarah as the pieces began to shoot together. She took a deep breath and stepped forward, her voice steady. What do you mean, marked? People like you, Sarah. Your bloodline is powerful, unpredictable. To them, you're a key. The cowboy looked down, avoiding her gaze as if he revealed something shameful. A key to something dark. What does that even mean? Sarah demanded, her voice sharper than she intended. We need facts, not riddles. Suddenly, the figures stirred, their chant rising, enveloping them deep and resonant. The blood must run free, the truth shall unleash what's meant to be. The cowboy's expression tightened. He motioned for silence, pressing a finger to his lips. They fell still, tension lacing the air so thickly it felt suffocating. Sarah felt her own blood running colder, her skin prickling with uncertainty. The shadows moved closer, liquid shapes sliding between trees, eyes glinting with an otherworldly hunger. Let me explain, Daniel whispered, moving even closer to Sarah. Your family's history, it's tied to these shadows. There's a legacy waiting to be claimed or destroyed. What legacy? She felt a whirlwind in her stomach, confusion gnawing at her edges. Memories of stories from childhood surfaced, faint echoes of ancestors who traveled these very lands. Why didn't I ever know? Because it's dangerous. If they knew you were aware, they would come for you sooner. Daniel's expression deepened with regret. I didn't know how to tell you. Before she could respond, a shadow lunged at them, breaking the fragile barrier of trees. All instinct kicked in. The cowboy fired, but the bullet went wide, striking a tree instead. In an instant, chaos erupted. Run! He yelled, but it was too late to think. The shadows surged, their movements swift and violent. Lily grabbed Sarah's arm, fear etched over her face. Where do we go? Just to the river. Sarah shouted, panic bubbling over. Together, they crushed branches and thrashed through the thick underbrush, dodging the dark hands reaching out toward them. Close behind, the whispers escalated into a maddening roar. Your blood will run. Your destiny awaits. As they broke through the trees, the moonlight revealed the raging river ahead, a glimmering pathway that could either free them or drag them under. But just before they reached the bank, Daniel stumbled. Go. I'll hold them back. No. Sarah screamed, her voice breaking, but he was already pushing her forward, desperation driving him. They hesitated for a moment, torn between the pull of survival and loyalty. But they had no choice. They had to keep moving. With one last harrowing glance back, Sarah rushed toward the river, every step echoing with uncertainty. Had they escaped the shadows? What awaited them on this new shore? The storm might have raged, but something deeper lurked in the dark waters, waiting to ensnare them all. The river roared like a wild beast, crashing against the rocks, its murky depths swirling fast. Sarah's heart raced as she peered over her shoulder. The shadows seemed to pulse and flicker like dying flames, but Daniel was nowhere in sight. Keep moving. Lily urged, urgency in her voice as she reached for Sarah's arm, pulling her closer to the water's edge. Sarah felt torn, her chest tightening. What if he's buying us time? We have to get to safety. A surge of adrenaline jolted through Sarah, propelling her forward as the chilling wind whipped at their clothes. They stepped into the shallow part of the river, the icy water biting at their ankles. Suddenly, a blur darted past them. It was the cowboy, eyes wide with fear, sprinting along the bank. Get to the boat. He shouted, pointing frantically downstream. We can't stay here. Wait. Where's Daniel? Sarah yelled back, panic clawing at her throat. The cowboy shook his head, his expression grim. He's buying us a chance. We need to move now. Every instinct told Sarah to fight against the current of despair, but insecurity gnawed at her. Could they abandon Daniel, the weight of that choice like lead in her gut? A terrifying cry echoed from the trees, sending shivers down her spine. The shadows are closing in. We need to hurry. With a shared look of determination, they plunged deeper into the river, the water rushing against their legs. Branches cracked and snatched at them from the shore. Every sound intensified the fear growing inside. What if they follow us? Lily shouted, her voice nearly swallowed by the river's roar. Then we fight. The cowboy replied fiercely, determination etched into his features. They stumbled toward the boat, a rickety wooden vessel tied loosely to a gnarled tree. It floated unsteadily as waves slapped against its sides, but it was their only hope. Just as they neared it, another shadow lurked at the tree line, creeping closer, glistening eyes reflecting the moonlight. Sarah! The cowboy yelled, as he lunged into the boat, his hands fumbling for the paddles. Get in! Lily, come on! Sarah cried, reaching for her friend. In that split second of hesitation, a pair of hands shot out, dragging Lily back into the darkness with a horrified gasp. A scream escaped Sarah's lips as she watched her friend vanish into the very shadows they had fled. Lily! Desperation flooded Sarah's chest as she turned to the cowboy. We have to know. He interrupted harshly, panic flashing in his eyes. We can't go back. We'll die. We need to escape. Sarah felt ice grip her heart. Could she really let Lily be lost to those shadows? Yet the cowboy pushed her into the boat, urgency sparking with every motion. Get us away from the shore. The river rushed beneath them, and the shadows danced along the banks, their chanting gaining a life of its own, a sinister melody rolling through the air. The sacrifice is made, her blood shall awake. Shut up. Just paddle. Sarah shouted, her voice breaking as tears blurred her vision. As the boat drifted further into the darkness, a strange pull tugged at her heart. Memories of her childhood, tales of sacrifice, hidden legacies, all coursing through her mind. They were half-formed images welled with urgency. What do they want from me? She whispered, the weight of her lineage pressing heavily on her. The cowboy's face hardened. We'll find out, but you need to trust me. Suddenly, a violent splash erupted from the water beside them, a shadowy tendril grasping up from below. "Sarah," it hissed, a dark voice wrapping around her like a noose. "You think you can escape what is yours?" She gasped, fear jolting through her as she turned to the cowboy. "What do we do?" His eyes steeled, determination mixed with desperation. "We fight back or we drown. This isn't just about you anymore." With the shadows closing in, Sarah had a choice to make. Would she stand and face the darkness within the legacy she never asked for or spiral into oblivion? The river roiled with dark promises, and as they fought to stay afloat, the shadows began to whisper her name, what awaited her in the depths of her bloodline. Would she have the strength to face it? The river surged, a living thing testing their will, while Sarah's hands trembled on the boat's edge. She met the cowboy's gaze, desperation swirling in his eyes. "Fight back," she murmured, feeling the heaviness of her lineage settle like a cloak of dread upon her shoulders. Thick shadows licked at the water beside them, clawing toward the surface. "We need something solid to fight with," she shouted, scanning the boat's scant supplies. The cowboy grunted and pulled out an old wooden paddle, its surface rough and splintered, a hesitant weapon against the encroaching darkness. "All right, hold this," he said, thrusting the paddle into her hands. "And when they come, you swing. No hesitation." The atmosphere crackled with tension. The shadows curled closer, weaving a tapestry of fears and forgotten memories. "Sarah," a whisper threaded through the night, a voice that bore her name like a chant. Was it Lily? But why would Lily call for her now? "You cannot avoid your fate." 100 different emotions crashed within her like the river's raging waters. Anger, guilt, fear. "Shut up!" She screamed at the dark, swinging the paddle at its edge, splashing water wildly in every direction. "You'll not take me." But the voices only grew louder, a haunting chorus that echoed around them. "Blood of the ancients, you can't escape." They were relentless, twisting through the air with a cold chill that wrapped around her spine. With determination, she gripped the paddle tightly. "What do I even fight against?" she shouted, as though the question alone would summon an answer. The cowboy gritted his teeth, scanning the waters while his knuckles turned white around the other paddle. "You fight for yourself. For your friend. We end this tonight." An icy ripple broke the surface and a mass of shadows erupted beside them, writhing and swirling like smoke dissipating in the wind. It looked like they were trying to find form, a grotesque assembly pulsing with dark energy. "Now!" the cowboy yelled, and they swung their paddles together. The impact struck the water and sent a shockwave through the terror surrounding them. For a moment, it felt as though they had pushed back the tide of despair. But the shadows were not so easily dismissed. They recoiled, then surged again with renewed fury, tendrils of darkness thrashing closer, seeking entrance into the boat. "We have to move," Sarah cried, panic tightening in her throat. "Paddle hard." The cowboy shouted, his voice cutting through the cacophony. The sound of the shadow's growls mingled with the river's roiling chaos, throwing the boat into a desperate rhythm. Each stroke felt like a battle against time, against fate itself. In a jarring moment, a shadow lunged from the depths. It snatched at Sarah's ankle. She gasped, jerking her leg back just in time. "They're trying to drag me in." "Focus, Sarah. You can't let it win." The cowboy took her hand, gripping it fiercely. "Remember what they said. It's your bloodline. You have power. You're stronger than they think." The shadows twisted, momentarily hesitating, perhaps sensing her inner turmoil. Their whispers revived old wounds and regrets, her abandonment of family lore, her silence toward a legacy gifted but forgotten. "What do they want?" she cried, her heart racing. The cowboy's gaze softened, realization dawning. "They want you to fall so they can take what's yours. Fight back with everything you have." And so she decided. With a surge of righteousness, a rush of ancient strength she hadn't known thrived beneath her skin. She channeled her rage, her sadness, and her fear into her swing. The paddle met the dark tendril with a force that reverberated through her. In that instant, a blinding light burst from the point of contact, illuminating the river and the depths below, and the shadows screamed. But before Sarah could grasp their victory, a figure erupted from the water beside them. It paused in mid-air amidst the chaos, illuminated by the light that broke through. It resembled Daniel, eyes wild and wide as he emerged, a haunting echo of her worst fears and greatest hopes. "Get away!" he shouted, as the shadows swarmed closer, trying to reclaim him. Sarah's pulse thundered. What was happening? Was he really there, or just another shadow of what she'd lost? Before she could decide, the light flickered, and the world around them began to fracture. The shadows shrieked as a rift threatened to open in the river, darkness pouring from its depths like a wound. "Sarah, we have to go!" the cowboy yelled, pulling her, but she hesitated, caught in the pull of Daniel's desperate eyes. "Wait, I can't leave him." "Then fight for him. Blend your strength with his." In a heartbeat, the choices split open before her, and the thunderous chaos of the river drowned out her thoughts. Could she face the ultimate sacrifice? Did she even have the strength to embrace it, even if it meant losing everything she held dear? The whispers blended into a deafening roar as the rift widened and a blinding darkness began to flood the air. Would her choice glean life or drown her in a deeper void? As Sarah's heart raced, a pulse of hope interlaced with fear surged through her. The shadows reached out, tugging at her soul, but Daniel's figure shimmered before her, pleading, an emblem of everything she wished to save. And as she stood teetering on the brink of destiny, the water spiraled beneath them, threatening to pull her into the darkness as whispers filled her mind once more. Join us. What awaited her in that darkness? Would she find the courage to make the ultimate sacrifice or lose everyone she loved to the shadows? The shadows clawed at Sarah's resolve, relentless in their pursuit, yet love and desperation fused within her heart. She could not abandon Daniel. The shadows knew it, too, and they crept closer, their voices intertwining with her thoughts dark and sinister, pulling her deeper into despair. She stepped forward, the shimmering light pulsing around her like a heartbeat. "Daniel," she called, voice vibrating with determination. "You'll come back. I want to let you go." "Not now." The cowboy's grip tightened on her arm as panic flickered across his face. "Sarah, we have to go. Now." "No. I can feel him. He is still here." Her heart raced as she searched the swirling storm before her. "I can bring him back." The shadows laughed, a chorus of dark, mocking voices. "You think you can summon light when your blood is steeped in darkness?" they hissed. "You are one of us." "No." Sarah shouted, the paddle gripped tightly in her hand. As the rift widened, swirling and threatening to consume them, she felt her very essence teetering on the brink. "I am not just my bloodline. I am more." With newfound clarity coursing through her, she spun the paddle with all her might. It cut through the darkness, channeling the battle brewing inside her. "I am my own choice. My own strength." The shadows halted, recoiling as she thrust the paddle forward with all her energy. Light erupted from the contact, scattering the darkness as it surged toward her. The moment glowed with brilliance, and her heart surged in tempo, each beat pulsing with courage and love, igniting a fire that chased the shadows back into the abyss. "Fight him!" the cowboy yelled, his voice ringing loud alongside the crack of thunder, grounding her in her purpose. "Fight for the person you love." As the brightness filled her, Daniel's form flickered at the rift, caught in the shadow's clutches. "Sarah!" he shouted, the desperation raw. "Daniel! I won't leave you!" she cried, her voice cutting through the chaos like glass breaking in still water. The shadows lunged, but Sarah knew now they were just phantoms of fear. Summoning her inner light, she focused on the love connecting them, and with a final swing of the paddle, a radiant wave pulsed outward, an explosion of illumination that washed over Daniel, enveloping him in warmth and hope. In an unexpected moment, he broke free, the shadows losing their grip, and he stumbled back onto the boat, wide-eyed and breathing heavily. "You did it. You broke the chains." Just then, the shadows screamed, their form collapsing under the flood of light. The river churned, tossing their boat violently, but the light within them held steady, unyielding against darkness. The cowboy beamed, adrenaline coursing through him. "Let us get to shore. Keep paddling." The trio worked together, each stroke fueling the light that expanded from Sarah's heart as it melded with Daniel's pulse. As they veered close to the riverbank, the shadows thrashed and shrieked, frantic to reclaim what they lost, but now stronger than ever, Sarah steered the boat toward freedom. Moments later, the boat hit the mud of the shore, and they leaped out, gasping and soaked. "Run!" the cowboy shouted, hurting them away from the encroaching darkness still lingering in the waters. Breathless and trembling, Sarah turned back one last time. "It's not over." The shadows writhed, their whispers fading into hollow echoes. "You may have survived this time, but our claws will reach for you again. We'll be ready. Together." Daniel shouted, determination raging bright in his eyes, his hand clasping hers. They sprinted through the underbrush, the air heavy around them. Once they reached a secluded spot, Sarah collapsed against a tree, her heart hammering against her chest. "What do we do now?" Lily questioned, emerging from the shadows, her face etched with worry. "We search for answers," Sarah replied, resolve settling in her gut. "There's so much we don't know. About our families, about the shadows, and about the power within us. We can't let it rest." The cowboy nodded, looking fierce and proud. "We'll face this together. We won't be silenced by the darkness anymore. We'll uncover the truth." "Right," they all said in unison, and Sarah felt a rush of warmth envelop her once more. The shadows may have been defeated tonight, but they were far from gone. As day broke over the horizon, presenting a brilliant burst of color, hope glimmered within her. They might stumble and struggle against the dark, but they wouldn't back down. This was only the beginning. She would break every chain binding their past, she would uncover their truth and make it her own. Together, they would prevail. And as they began to forge ahead, a sense of purpose dripped from her heart, stronger than any fear. They would face the storms of the past and weather what was to come. Nothing would tear them apart again. Now, they were ready. The end. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive chapter in our journey. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support for the channel. Flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about this thrilling conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this epic finish. This is the moment to unite and keep the story alive together.